Hey everybody, welcome back to V&J Reviews. It is great to have you here with us today. This is Vin.
And this is Joe.
On this episode, a little bit different. We're going to scale out Vegeta's power and show you why we believe his power level is beyond Galactic. Stick with us. You're going to want to see this. So what we're going to do on this episode is take some recent information that we have throughout the Universal Tournament of Power, and we're going to apply that to Vegeta, including his fight with Toppo and some other information that we have to try and scale out how strong really is Vegeta. Not to give him a power scaling number, like, oh, he's 45 quadrillion, but to explain it more in universal power levels, like, planetary, galactic, that sort of thing. And I think we have some good information here to indicate just about how strong Vegeta is. Now, this is just one piece of evidence. There's many ways to scale this out, and this is by no means the perfect indication of how strong Vegeta is. There's other things out there that could change this up or switch him to maybe perhaps quite a bit more powerful, or even some people would say less. But we're going to use one piece of evidence here and take it apart and rip it apart and begin to show you, and I think in a valid way, about how strong Vegeta actually is, and it's extremely powerful. So you're going to want to stick through here and see what this is all about. So where we start this off is with Frieza against Toppo. Now, when Frieza was fighting Toppo, we made mention of this before, but Frieza basically powered up this energy orb that he explicitly stated was a planetary destroyer. Basically, it was enough energy to destroy a planet. And we're going to say probably a normal-sized planet that a species would live on. And now Toppo combated that energy orb with his own destruction energy, and this was important because when he powered it up and we saw it in his hands, it's tough to know exactly how what the volume of that energy orb was, but give or take, it was about an inch in diameter. I know some people might say, no, his hands are huge. It was way bigger than an inch in diameter. Or some people say, no, it looks much tinier than an inch. But I think everyone could relatively agree that it's about an inch in diameter or half an inch radius. And this is important because we can see how that much of volume of an energy sphere reacts with a planetary size level energy orb. And you saw the reaction that it got. It essentially disintegrated the energy orb like it was nothing. So now we have a measurement. We basically have an equation almost of the volume of destruction energy to the volume or the size of the energy that Frieza released and how they sort of reacted with each other. And now in a recent episode, we got to see Vegeta use both his Final Flash and Final Explosion technique against Toppo, who just happened to use his destruction energy on both of those attacks. Now what we can do is take the information we know from his attack against Frieza and now his attacks against Vegeta, and this is just one piece of evidence to try and figure out how strong, what type of energy output is Vegeta really giving. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to compare the size, the volume of Toppo's energy orb in both against Frieza and Vegeta's two attacks and sort of figure out what is the difference between them in relationship to the energy output given by Frieza and Vegeta. In order to do this, we need to figure out what is the actual volume of the energy sphere. The only way to do that is to measure its size. Now, the best way to do this is to figure out the volume of the energy of destruction orb that Toppo creates. The best height comparison we have is Toppo himself. We have to figure out how tall is Toppo. Now, this is tough to do because different artists on the show draw these characters at different heights, and it's so inconsistent. But there's no doubt about it, when we see Toppo with the Universe 11 teammates that he is by far the tallest. In fact, there's this one image that makes him look about 2 feet taller than Jiren, and Jiren's probably around 6 foot on his own. And then there's other images that sometimes make him look even taller than that, bigger than that. Sometimes he looks smaller than that, but then he transformed into this god of destruction, and there's no doubt about it. This guy got even bigger, taller, more ripped. And there's some images that make him look unbelievably huge. And again, some of them smaller. But there's no doubt if he was around 8 feet before, most of these images are making me think that he's got to be right around 10 feet. I mean, he wraps his entire hand around the face of Frieza and lifts him up off the ground. When he approaches 17, he looks like a monster approaching 17. He almost looks 20 feet tall in that image sometimes. Obviously, I don't think he's that big. But there's no doubt about it, he's got to be right around the 10-foot mark. This is helpful for us because now we can use Toppo's height to measure out this energy orb of destruction. And what we see here is about 4 lengths of Toppo, and we can measure out the volume of this energy orb of destruction by using that. So Toppo is approximately 10 feet tall, and that would give the energy orb of destruction a 20-foot radius or a 40-foot diameter, which means that it would be 33,510 cubic feet or 57,905,280 cubic inches. Frieza's attack, Toppo used an energy orb that was only 0.5 cubic inches. So now we can see the volume difference from Toppo's attack against Vegeta versus Toppo's attack against Frieza. And we know how much energy Frieza used against that attack that Toppo developed that was only 0.5 cubic inches. This means that the destruction attack that Toppo used against Vegeta's Final Flash was 115,810,560 times more volume to it than the one that he used against Vegeta. But this isn't enough because Toppo's destruction energy used against Vegeta's attack wasn't enough to take out the Final Flash. In fact, it wasn't working even for many seconds. You could see the energy being destroyed, but it wasn't actually holding up. Toppo had to increase its size and power to eventually nullify Vegeta's Final Flash attack, whereas Frieza's Planet Killer attack was nullified easily, meaning 0.5 cubic inches of Toppo's destruction energy effortlessly destroys a planet killer-sized energy blast. Well, we know the energy in an attack that basically could destroy one planet was easily nullified. So how much would have been equal to that 0.5 cubic inches? I basically looking at it, I think it would at least have had to be 100 times stronger to equal out that 0.5 cubic inches. It's hard to say. I mean, it had to have been 1,000 times stronger or less. We don't really know, but I'm pretty safe. I think we're pretty safe at saying that it at least would have had to have been the size of an energy to destroy 100 planets in order to equal that 0.5 cubic inches volume of the energy orb there. By using this, and of course we're using a little bit of liberty here because there's no way to know exactly. We can make some hypothetical guesses here in comparison to the context of it and seeing how they reacted with each other. But if we use that, 0.5 cubic inches of destruction energy is at least minimally as strong as an energy attack that could destroy 100 planets. Minimally. I mean, based off of the reaction it had with Frieza's attack that could destroy one planet. And now what we can do with this, because Vegeta's energy of his Final Flash, although it is a constant energy burst, meaning he is constantly throwing it out. It's not like an energy orb. He's throwing it out. As Vegeta is doing this attack, it is equaling out with the destruction orb that Toppo is throwing out, which means that we can make an educated guess that if 0.5 cubic inches is close to 100 planetary destruction power, then 0.005 or 5,000ths of a cubic inch would be equal to one planet size. And if Vegeta's Final Flash held equal with a destruction energy orb of 57,905,280 cubic inches, then the energy output would be close to the size of 11,581,056,000 planets. There are approximately 100 billion planets in the Milky Way, making his Final Flash attack, at least the energy output of it, 1/10 galactic in power, at least when compared to the number of planets in the Milky Way, not the space in entirety, but planetary, because that's the numbers that we have to work on. This is just his Final Flash attack, which wasn't even the strongest attack that Vegeta used on this episode. So now we have pretty good evidence that this is at least 1/10 galactic in power in comparison to the Milky Way and the planets. So when Vegeta is using his final explosion attack against Topo obviously is going to react, and he uses his destruction energy as well. Now, to figure out how tall or how big this is, at least in volume, is very difficult. Topo makes it bigger, then bigger again. So big we even lose Topo in it. And then it gets even much more massive, and you see these two energy orbs surrounding each other. They're clearly probably hundreds of feet. All right, now I'm going to be honest with you. At this point, it does just get kind of in the fun mode because this is so hypothetical to really figure out how tall this is and in Topo in comparison. So we really take, a lot of liberty here to figure out, the length of this. It is massive. So as we were trying to measure out Topo in comparison to this thing, like 10-foot Topo, where is he standing stuff, we were getting between 8 billion, 14 billion cubic inches. So we settled, there was a certain amount of feet that we calculated out to around 11 billion, 300 million cubic inches using the same calculations that we used before when calculating the volume of a sphere. When you take this number, in comparison to the amount of destruction energy it took Topo to destroy what we would calculate at one planetary level orb, we get a calculation that puts the energy output of Vegeta here at a planetary destruction level at 2,260 billion planets. Now, if we know that there's or at least an estimated 100 billion planets in the Milky Way galaxy, this would make the energy output of Vegeta's attack at 22.6 times galactic level when comparing it to the Milky Way galaxy at a planetary level of energy. I mean, planetary destruction level. Again, not space level, because we don't know the space in between planets is much more, so that's hard to calculate in itself. And of course, we're using a lot of liberties here trying to figure out how tall these things are in comparison. But doing all this, it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun to sit back and do these volume calculations of Frieza's attack and the energy orb used to take out that versus Vegeta's attack. But when you start doing these things and you start, pinning these numbers out, you're seeing galactic level powers and multi-galactic. When we're talking about Vegeta's attack being 22 times galactic level, honestly, I kind of see that fitting a little bit. Like, okay, yeah, I do think he is at that level. Now, some people would say, well, these guys are universal killers. Vegeta could destroy an entire universe. I don't know. I don't think that Vegeta's at a universe. He's destroying universes. Okay, that's when you're getting into, even these gods of destruction, aren't destroying universes.
Now, I know some of you guys are probably going to think about back in the Broly movie, where Broly actually destroyed an entire galaxy on his own. But once again, you got to make sure that that's not really canon, that movie. It really doesn't fit with, the whole storyline. So I just want to make sure that that we're not going with that non-canon movie when we're coming up with these calculations.
And I would like to add in that this is really all for fun, guys. When we're putting together the volume of these spheres and trying to figure out how many planetary level energy would take out, 0.5 cubic inches of the energy orb of destruction. Guys, a lot of this is hypothetical and there's a lot of liberty taken. It's just fun to calculate it out. So at the end of the day, what do you guys think about that final number we got? 22.6 times galactic level as far as the energy output of Vegeta's attack there. Do you guys think that fits? Do you think it should be stronger than that? Do you think that it wasn't quite that powerful? We'd like to know your thoughts on it. Again, this was just a fun episode. We figured we'd throw some stuff out there just for entertainment value and looking at Vegeta's power and scaling it this way. So let us know your thoughts. Leave those below. As always, we hope you were entertained by this episode. Go ahead and push that subscribe button if you have not already and turn on those notifications. As always, this is Vin.
And this is Joe.
We will, of course, see you guys next time.